Hello everyone, welcome back to the series of tutorials on C++. I am Deepak Niyal and in this tutorial I am going to discuss about passing arrays to functions. So in previous lecture we discussed about arrays and you can declare the arrays like this. Suppose you want to pass this array to some function with name, fun name, then you have to do it like this. First argument should be array name. It's not necessary that this should be first argument, but we generally put it at the first place, and then size of the array, right? So one of the question that I have to you is why we need to pass size of the array. And answer to this question you can find out in the previous tutorial when we discussed that array in C++ or C does not perform any bound checking. Bound checking means if you have an array like this and it has some 5 elements. So this is the space where this array has some elements, right? Like 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Clear? But C++ or C allows you to access on the left side and on the right side of this array. So this is called no bound checking performed by C and C++. And that's why we need to pass size of the array so that we are limited to this size only, right? Otherwise it could be dangerous to access memory outside of the array. Okay, so one thing very important to understand here is that C++ passes array to function by reference. So here we are passing reference of an array, and in this way the function that has been called can modify the value of this array, right? So if we are passing array like this, it can modify any element and put a new element at this place. So here when we are passing this name of an array as an argument, value of this name is the address in the computer's memory of the first element of the array. So suppose you might be confused that we are taking 10 here and writing 5 here. So I will just make it 5 for your convenience or your understanding. Suppose this first address is 100. So when we are passing this n, this is actually pointing to this element, the first element. And now after that you know the type of this array. If it is integer, then next element will be at 104 byte if it is of 4 bytes, and generally integer is of 4 byte, and another is 108 byte, and so on. This way you can access the elements and change their values. Now there is one important question for you: why arrays should not be passed by values? We are passing array as reference, right? So how can you pass the array by values? So the first question here is why arrays should not be passed by value and why we are passing them as reference. And second thing, if you can pass them as value, how can you do so, right? So I can give you a hint of this, that we are not passing array as value because array might have a larger size, and that's why we might need to copy a lot of values. Clear? So that's why we're not passing it by value. But how can we pass the arrays by values? So you have to answer me in comments that how can we pass the arrays by values. Clear? Now we have seen how can we pass the array in function. Now next thing is how can we receive an array in the function. So what you have to do, first you have to write the type of that function. Suppose it is void, then function name. After that you have to write type of that array, and you can see it is integer here. Then name of the array, you can write some other name here and is not necessary. Then square bracket, these are necessary, and then size of the array. Clear? And you can write anything here. In this case you can write size here, or maybe you can write some another variable here, maybe x, which is size of the array, but this is not necessary. Even if you write this, compiler will ignore this thing. Okay, so that is not necessary. Now what will be the prototype of this function? Prototype will be void, then function name, after that int n, square bracket and int size. Okay, or you can do one thing, you can write void function name, then provide data type of the array, then square bracket after that, and then data type of size. So here we are writing these two variables n and size, and these are also not necessary, right? Compiler ignore these variable name in the prototype. So what is a prototype? Prototype tells the compiler the number of argument. So we have two arguments here, and the type of each argument, and also the order in which these arguments are expected to appear, right? So what are these three things? One is arguments, or we can say their number of arguments, types, and their order. So prototype tell these three things. Other than this, if you are writing any argument name, that is not required. But if you put these argument name, there is no harm in that, and that's good for clarity. Okay, so now you have seen how can we pass an array in the function. And one important thing that you have seen, that we are passing array as reference. Clear? But if you pass one element of array, it will be passed by value. Clear? So I will tell you the difference by executing this program. So let's start programming of this and see this in action. So here I have a new file, arrays function. I am creating two function, modify array, and this function will take two arguments. One is array and another is size of the array. Another function that I am creating here is will modify the element, and here I will take element as an argument. Then create a main function. Here I am declaring array size as constant, and this constant is required because we do not want to change the array size in future. Okay, so just create an element using this array size. So what you can do, you can write 0 1 2 3 and 4, and here you have 5 elements. Then call the function modify array. We have to pass a in this function and then array size, right? After that you can call a function print array, and in this we will pass a and size of the array. So for this you can write its prototype print array, and then similar to the first function it should be like this. Clear? So now as you have created prototype of function here, you can define the function below this main function. For that you have to write modify array, and inside this you have to take these arrays and argument. I will give this name array, then int and size of the array. Now try to implement this. For int k equal to 0, k should be less than array size, and after that k plus plus. And what I am trying to do here, I am trying to modify each index of the array by multiplying that element using 2, right? And now this function is done. Now I will define print function, and in this I have to write the same thing that I have written above. And for implementing this function I have to copy this whole thing, but instead of changing this I have to output each element of the array, and for that you can do array and k inside that. After that provide some space, and when this whole array is printed you can provide a new line. Clear? So we'll run this program first and see whether these values are changed or not. But before that we can print the array and pass some message here before modification, and when this array is modified we can write after modification. Okay, so run this program first and see its output. Program is compiled successfully. Now see its output. before modification it's 0 1 2 3 4, and after modification it is 0 2 4 6 8, because we have multiplied each element by 2, right? So we have successfully called the function to modify the array, and that has been done here. Now try to implement this another function which is trying to modify one element of that function. So maybe we can write element here, and you can call the function from this place, and it should be modify element, right? And here we are not passing array and array size, but we are passing a specific element, maybe second element, which is 2 previously but now 4 after this modification. And after this you can again print out the array to see if there are any changes in this array. So what we are going to do here, we will take this element, multiply this element by using 2, and now run the program. Program has been compiled successfully. Now before modification it is 0 1 2 3 4, and after modification it is 0 2 4 6 8, and after this modification we have passed element of the array in another function. But you can see there is no change in this, right? Because that value has been passed using copy by value or pass by value. So when this function is getting called, this is creating one another element here and multiplying that element by 2. If you want to print this element, you can print it here, but this element is not reflected back in the original array, right? Because this is pass by value. Now run the program again and see the output. You will see this element, which is 4 into 2 8. Program is compiled successfully, and now see the output. Here is the element. Clear? So this is modified but in local function, and when local function returns, all the local variables are destroyed. Okay, so there is one more thing here. There are some situations where you do not want to allow a function to modify this array. So what you can do, you can put const in front of this like this, and where we are creating its prototype, you have to write const there. And now if you try to execute these statements, it's going to give us an error, and that is that this array cannot be modified. So let's see this program in action. Try to compile it, and here you can see read only variable is not assignable. So this is read only now, right? So in this way you can pass an array as a reference and stop that from being modified. Okay, so functions should not be given the capability to modify an array unless it's absolutely necessary. In this case it is necessary, so we'll remove the const here, right? Okay, now I hope this example is clear to you. If you have any doubt or query regarding any of this example or anything related to array, you can write in the comments. Before winding up this lecture, I will give you some questions which you can implement using array. So you can attempt these questions on your own. So first thing is, you can try to implement linear search. Second, you can try to implement binary search. These things are very important in computer science, so you should be knowing about these. And you can implement some sorting algos. I am not giving you some difficult algorithms here, but you can start with some basic algorithms. And the first of them is bubble sort, then insertion sort, and the final one is selection sort. You can try implementing these things and ask in the comments in case of any doubt. So in future we'll also talk about their time and space complexities in our algorithms course, which is very important for the placement. But as of now you can just try to implement these things, and if possible try to write their time and space complexities in the comments. Okay, so see you in the next video with some new concept. Till then, thank you so much.